Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are going home. And I don't mean that in a cozy, put the kettle on and relax sort of way.
No, not at all.
I mean, we are looking at the one place you're supposed to be safest, your family unit, and exploring what happens when that safety is just shattered by something completely unexplainable.
It's a theme that hits really hard because it's so primal. We call it the cursed family trope
Hmm.
in folklore.
Right.
It taps into that fear that the danger isn't coming from a stranger in a dark alley. It's coming from inside the house or, worse, from your own bloodline.
Right, it's the monster sitting at the dinner table. And looking at the stack of research you've pulled for today, this definitely isn't a new idea. I was reading through the notes on Dudleytown, Connecticut, the so-called Village of the Damned.
A classic example. The legend there is that the Dudley family was cursed to suffer madness and suicide for generations. The idea being that your lineage is your doom and you can't outrun your last name.
Or the Charman in California. That one honestly creeped me out the most during the prep.
Oh, that one's rough.
The legend is a father and son trapped in a fire. The son goes mad, skins the father. It's just gruesome. But in those stories, the horror is usually centered on madness, right? Something snaps and chaos ensues.
Exactly. It's chaotic, frenetic tragedy. But the deep dive we are doing today, it's different.
Yeah.
We are leaving the American urban legends behind and heading to the Himalayas, specifically the Pauri Garhwal region of India.
And what struck me about this case, the story of a farmer named Gagan and a terrifying entity known as a Masan, is that unlike the Charman, this wasn't about chaotic madness. This feels colder.
Much colder. We're going to unpack a legend that serves as a massive warning sign about greed. It's a ghost story, yes, but it's also a look at human psychology, family dynamics, and a very specific cultural belief in supernatural justice.
So buckle up. We're going to Dev Bhumi, the land of the gods.
That's the literal translation, and it fits. Pauri Garhwal is stunning.
I've never been, but the photos and the source material are breathtaking. Mist-covered mountains, ancient temples, green valleys. It looks peaceful, but I get the sense that the geography plays a big role here.
It does. You have to understand the geography to understand the stakes of the story. These villages are often incredibly isolated. The terrain is rugged.
Right.
If something happens there, you are miles from modern help. The community is your survival mechanism.
And the spiritual element seems just as intense as the geography. The sources keep mentioning the Kul Devi. For those of us who didn't grow up in that culture, how do we contextualize that? Is it like a guardian angel?
It's more intense than a guardian angel. A guardian angel implies a sort of passive protection. A Kul Devi is the family deity. The belief is that she watches over the lineage. It's a spiritual contract.
A contract.
As long as you serve the Kul Devi with total devotion, the bloodline is protected from everything.
Which implies a transaction, doesn't it? You do your part, the deity does theirs. If you break the contract, you're on your own.
Precisely. And in our story, the family of Gagan, our main character, was holding up their end of the bargain flawlessly. Specifically, his mother and his wife, Madhu.
The sources emphasize this heavily. Rain, snow, mudslides, it didn't matter. These two women were at that temple every single day.
Which establishes them as the moral anchor of the family. They are doing everything right. They are ensuring the spiritual safety of the house through their devotion.
And Dega?
Gagan, meanwhile, is described as a hardworking guy, a former soldier, a farmer. On the surface, they are the picture-perfect rural family.
Which makes the betrayal that's coming feel so much worse. So let's get to the day everything changes. It's a rainy day. And in the mountains, rain isn't just grab an umbrella, it's dangerous.
It turns the paths into slip and slides. It's treacherous. Gagan is out working. Sources say he was busy with farm duties or soldier duties.
Right.
So his mother and his wife, Madhu, head out to the temple as usual. Their devotion overrode the safety hazard.
But they don't come back. Afternoon hits, Gagan returns home, and the house is empty.
Right. And you can imagine the rising panic. Gagan gathers some villagers, and they retrace the path to the temple. They're calling out names, looking over the edges of these steep cliffs.
And that's when they find them.
It's a devastating scene. They find the bodies of Gagan's mother and his wife, Madhu, at the bottom of a ravine.
And the reconstruction of the event seems pretty straightforward at first glance, doesn't it?
It does.
The path was slippery. It looks like the mother slipped, maybe grabbed onto Madhu in a panic to save herself, and gravity just took over.
That's the initial assumption. And we have to pause on the magnitude of this loss. Gagan didn't just lose his mother and wife. The source material notes a heartbreaking detail.
What's that?
Madhu was pregnant.
Oh, wow. So in one fell swoop, his entire immediate support system and his future child are gone. That's a level of grief I can't even imagine.
The village is in mourning. Gagin appears completely broken. But, and here is where the deep dive gets interesting, there was an anomaly,
The wound.
the wound. When they recovered the bodies, Gagin and the villagers noticed something odd on Madhu's body. There was a distinct, deep puncture wound on the right side of her chest.
Not from a fall.
No, it was bleeding profusely, which stood out against the other injuries.
Now, if I fell off a cliff, I'd expect to be battered. But a specific puncture wound, that seems suspicious. But the villagers rationalized it, didn't they?
They did, and it's a rationalization born of their environment. In Pauri, scavengers are common, jackals specifically.
So they blamed an animal.
The villagers assumed that perhaps a jackal had gotten to the body before the search party arrived.
Just a jackal. That sounds like denial to me. Like they couldn't process that it might be anything else, so they grabbed the easiest explanation.
Exactly, because the alternative, that this wasn't an accident, is too horrific to consider for a family known for their piety.
Right.
So they mourn, they cremate the bodies, and life tries to move on. But Gagin, well, the atmosphere in the house shifts.
This is where we move from tragedy to horror. Strange things start happening, specifically with the elder daughter.
Yes. The elder daughter starts behaving erratically.
Yeah.
She becomes aggressive. She starts speaking strangely. The sources describe her banging her head against the door frames.
Oh, man.
It's the classic buildup of a possession narrative.
And then comes the moment that makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. Gagin is watching his daughter, who is spiraling out of control, and he sees a wound appear on her body.
Not just any wound.
No.
A wound on the right side of her chest, identical to the one on his dead wife.
Okay, let's unpack this. We went from "it was a jackal" to "my living daughter has the same phantom wound as her deceased mother."
Yeah.
That is a massive escalation. That's not something you can rationalize away with scavengers.
It's the moment the rational explanation collapses completely. In the cultural context of Uttarakhand, physical manifestations like this are a blaring siren for the supernatural.
It's a sign.
It's no longer about grief, it's about a spiritual affliction. Gagin knows he needs help, so he rushes his daughter to the temple to see the pujari, the priest.
And this isn't a doctor visit. This is spiritual triage. The priest takes one look at the girl, specifically into her eyes, and drops the diagnosis immediately. One word.
Masan.
Right. And for our listeners who might not be familiar with Indian folklore, we need to define this because a masan isn't your run-of-the-mill ghost like you might see in Casper or Poltergeist.
No, not even close.
Yeah, the source material was pretty specific about this. It sounded intense. What makes a masan different?
In Indian folklore, ghosts have hierarchies. A masan is specifically a spirit associated with cremation grounds, places of ash and finality. These are entities that are incredibly dangerous.
So, top tier scary.
The lore suggests they don't just possess a body for the fun of it, they are driven by a fierce purpose or malice. And once they attach to someone, they are notoriously difficult to remove.
The source mentioned something about the look in their eyes, that it's terrifying enough to make people physically sick just witnessing it.
Exactly. It's a look of pure, unadulterated pain and rage. So the daughter's there, screaming, self-harming. The villagers gather around and panic sets in.
Of course.
You have to understand the community dynamic here. If there is a masan in the village, it's like a radioactive leak.
It's a danger to everyone, not just Gagin.
Correct. The community feels threatened. They believe the Kuldevi is angry. So they give him an ultimatum. Get out!
They kick him out.
Essentially, yes. They pressure him to leave the village. They can't have this bad omen in their midst. Gagin is desperate. He pleads for just 1 week. He begs the priest to cure his daughter.
It's a high-stakes situation. He's lost his wife, his mother, his unborn child, and now his daughter is possessed by a cremation ground demon, and his neighbors are grabbing the pitchforks. You almost feel bad for the guy.
Almost. And that's the key word. Because while everyone is focusing on the screaming, possessed elder daughter, the priest, who is clearly a very observant man, notices something else.
The younger daughter.
Correct. The younger daughter isn't possessed. She's quiet. But she's trying to communicate. She's making nonverbal signals to the priest, trying to get his attention without her father noticing.
This is the turning point. The crowd disperses, leaving Gagin and the girls. The priest seizes the moment and gets the younger daughter alone. And what she says, it completely flips the script.
It changes the genre from a ghost story to a true crime thriller.
What does she see?
The younger daughter was there that day. She followed them. She saw what happened on the cliff.
This wasn't an accident.
It was a double murder.
Gagan, the grieving husband, the broken man, he did it.
He did. And the motive is what really sticks with me. It wasn't a crime of passion in the traditional sense. It was cold, calculated, and born of a very specific societal pressure.
Yeah.
Kagan hated his daughters.
Hated them. It's harsh.
The source details are brutal. He was obsessed with having a son.
The heir.
Exactly. We're talking about patrilineal anxiety. In these patriarchal structures, a son isn't just a child. He's your retirement plan, your status symbol, the one who can perform your last rites.
Without a son, Gagan felt erased.
Yes. And the notes mention he had a brother, Sushil.
Right.
This adds a layer of deep-seated jealousy. Sushil was successful. Sushil was generous. He had actually given Gagan land out of pity because their father was ill.
And Gagan resented that.
Instead of being grateful, Gagan saw that charity as an insult. He felt small. He convinced himself that if he had a son, a soldier like him, he could reclaim his masculinity and his status.
So he looked at his pregnant wife, Madhu, and he didn't see a partner. He saw a biological obstacle.
He essentially told her, if this baby is a girl, you're done. He viewed them as disposable.
So on that rainy day, he didn't just find the bodies, he made them.
He intercepted them on the path. The source says he expressed his rage to his wife about the possibility of the new baby being another girl. His mother was there. She saw her son's true face.
She must have been in shock.
She was. But Gagan didn't stop at threats. He pulled out a knife.
That wound on the chest, the one the villagers blamed on a jackal.
That was Gagan stabbing his pregnant wife.
Jesus.
He stabbed her, and then to cover it up, he shoved both his bleeding wife and his mother off the cliff to make it look like a slip-and-fall accident.
That is absolutely monstrous. He kills 3 generations, mother, wife, unborn child because of his ego, and then plays the victim for weeks.
It's the ultimate betrayal. He used their devotion, their trip to the temple, as the opportunity to destroy them. He knew they would be there.
But the truth comes out. The younger daughter spills everything to the priest. Now, normally, in a legal sense, the testimony of a traumatized child might be hard to pin a murder charge on immediately.
Right.
But we still have the Masan element.
We do. And this is where the story circles back to that concept of supernatural justice. The priest goes back to the elder daughter, the one possessed by the Masan. And in a confrontation, the spirit reveals its identity.
It wasn't just a random ghost from the cremation ground.
No. The spirit speaking through the elder daughter claimed to be Madhu, the murdered wife.
Wow. So the possession was essentially the wife forcing the truth into the light because the husband had silenced her.
Exactly. The possession was the mechanism of justice. The spirit confirms the younger daughter's story. Gagan realizes the jig is up. The village knows. The priest knows. The supernatural knows.
And he runs.
He panics. He tries to flee the exorcism or confrontation. And this is where the irony becomes almost cinematic. He runs toward the cliffs.
No, tell me.
He slips at the exact same spot where he pushed his wife and mother.
You cannot make this up. It's almost Shakespearean.
It is. The very mud he tried to use to hide his crime ends up clinking him down.
Does he die?
He doesn't die. He falls. He gets injured.
Right.
But he survives long enough for the villagers to capture him.
Which, in a way, is a harsher punishment. He has to face the consequences.
And he does. The source notes that legally it was tricky. The police obviously couldn't file a report saying the ghost told us he did it.
Source. Trust me, it's a Masan.
Yeah, that doesn't hold up in court.
Right. But the younger daughter's eyewitness testimony, combined with the circumstantial evidence of the stab wound that they had previously ignored, allowed them to build a case. Gagan goes to jail.
And what happens to the girls? The daughters he hated so much.
They get the happy ending, relatively speaking. Gagan's brother, Sushil, the one Gagan was so jealous of, steps up. He adopts the 2 girls. He ensures they are cared for.
So the curse ends.
The curse essentially ends with Gagan's imprisonment.
It's such a heavy story. But it brings us back to where we started, the Cursed Family. In Dudleytown or the Charmen stories, the curse is usually external. It's the land or a fire or bad genetics. Here, the curse was Gagan.
He was the bad luck he was so afraid of.
And the Masan element. In many horror stories, the ghost is the villain. The ghost haunts the innocent family. But here, the Masan, the spirit of the wife, is actually the hero.
Or at least the prosecutor.
Precisely. It subverts the trope. The supernatural entity isn't there to torment the living for no reason. It's there to correct a wrong that the living were too blind to see.
That's a great point.
The villagers were happy to accept the accident theory. It took the supernatural intervention, the possession, to force them to look at the ugly truth.
It reminds me a bit of the Stony Hollow Road legend from Iowa, where the ghost appears because of a betrayal. But this has that added intensity of the mother-child bond. The wound appearing on the daughter is such a visceral detail.
It is.
It's as if the mother was saying, "You hurt me, and now I will show you my pain on the only thing you have left."
It really highlights how these legends, whether they are from Connecticut or the Himalayas, serve a social function. They warn us.
They warn us that secret sins don't stay secret. Gagin thought the cliff and the rain washed away his crime. The legend says, nothing is forgotten.
The truth always climbs its way back up the cliff.
And it also serves as a warning about how we treat our families. Gagin's downfall wasn't the ghost, it was his own hatred. If he had just valued his daughters, none of this would have happened.
Absolutely. The monster in this deep dive wasn't the Masan with the terrifying eyes. It was the father who looked at his pregnant wife and saw her as disposable. That is the true horror of this case.
Well, on that chilling note, it really makes you look at these urban legends differently. They aren't just scary stories to tell in the dark, they are moral mirrors.
They are, and sometimes the reflection is uglier than the ghost.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Next time you hear a ghost story, maybe ask yourself, is the ghost haunting the house, or is it trying to save it?
And maybe, just maybe, be careful on slippery paths in the rain.
Definitely. A huge thank you to our sources for this deep dive, specifically the detailed retelling of the Pauri legend. It's a reminder that the scariest stories are often the ones grounded in very human emotions. We'll leave you with this thought. The source described the Masan's eyes as terrifying. But imagine the terror in Madhu's eyes when she realized the person she loved was holding the knife. Who was the real demon on that cliff?
Something to mull over tonight.
For more such stories, make sure to subscribe to our channel. We'll see you in the next deep dive. Stay curious and stay safe.